Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of Barrie Real Estate TV, a weekly web series I do in partnership with 705contracting.ca. I'm your host Luc Bouillon, a real estate broker with the Knowles Woolsey team at Remax Hallmark Che right here in the beautiful city of Barrie. This is episode number 33. We're in phase 2 of Ontario's reopening plan post-COVID-19 global pandemic, and for the most part, things are going well. The numbers are down, things are opening back up, and things are rolling again across the province and really across the country. I'm joined today by a special guest, a local, well-respected Barrie lawyer and my personal friend who's going to talk to us about how things are different on her end in terms of closing transactions and whether or not there's anything to be worried about regarding delays and things not closing. So stay tuned right after this. Hi guys, welcome back. So I have here with me today my dear friend Cesia Green of Wall-Armstrong and Green. She is, I will say, Barrie's best real estate lawyer, real estate and wills, right? Estate planning. Cesia, say hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Thanks for that very kind introduction.
Oh, no worries. So most of you might know, obviously, I recommend different trades and services to my clients. Cesia is the one that I bring up most often for anybody who's doing a real estate deal with me. She's also done my personal business, and I would recommend her all the time. So we're happy to have her here. She got some great insights, and we're going to talk a bit about just how things have changed and what we're doing differently in terms of getting real estate transactions closed in a post-COVID-19 world. So how have things been going over there?
Well, it's all different. Well, different and same. Same problems, different solutions.
For sure.
We all still want to get the deals closed, and we want to do it as efficiently and economically as possible for the clients. We want everybody to get into their house and feel welcome in their home and know what they're buying the same as we always did. We just have to do things from a distance now. So we have guidelines from our regulator, the Law Society of Ontario. We have guidelines from some advocacy groups like the Ontario Bar Association and the Federation of Law Associations of Ontario, and some sort of ad hoc things that we've developed on our own, and we're making it happen. We have not had, in our office anyway, a single deal that hasn't closed specifically because of COVID.
That's really important, right? So, I mean, I know on our side, real estate agents, right off from the get-go, were declared an essential service. I know you guys were as well. Anyone kind of related to the transaction. The minister said obviously housing is important. Some people needed to move no matter what was going on, right? For lots of different reasons, whether you had already sold something and need to finish the process, or had bought something and need to sell the other one, or because you couldn't afford both, or, for any number of reasons, people still had to move, right? So we had to do that. We did our best kind of at first to really scale things back to only the really essential deals. And we were doing everything virtually wherever possible. As things started to open back up, obviously we are out showing properties again. Some houses were using masks and gloves, some houses were not. Depends on the seller's personal preferences and the client's preferences, that kind of stuff. But we're doing our best to do everything obviously a lot more distant and safely than before, and we're still trying to offer the virtual options, when people want them, when people are capable of them. We're doing client meetings virtually, we're doing all of our paperwork electronically instead of bringing people into the office multiple times if they're comfortable with that. I know you've changed a lot of your processes, so tell me a little bit about how you're going about that.
So on the real estate side, pretty much everything is done virtually now. I have the odd client who I have some clients who are elderly and they either don't have the technology or just aren't comfortable with the technology. And so we do parking lot signups for those. Our office is still open. It has not closed at all during this time. We have given all of our staff the opportunity and the technology to be able to work from home if they want to. I'm personally working from home occasionally because of childcare, because I have little kids. But our office is open, so locked but open. So we only have clients who want to see us. They knock on the door, let us know that they're here, and then we go in and pass documents back and forth in their car. Just for the extra protection of being outside and being able to stay more at a distance. because despite the low cases here, we don't want to be the cause of any super spreader event from our firm.
Sure.
But documents mostly are getting signed virtually. We're either using Zoom, or we're using a platform that was created by the real estate software that we use called Meet. And so we're using one of those we email the documents to the client, or they pick them up. We get on a video call, we sign everything, and then they drop the documents back off or email them over and mail the originals, because unlike realtors, lawyers are not permitted to do electronic signing of documents. It all has to be an actual, what they call a wet signature. So we can witness on the video call, but the document can't be signed through something like DocuSign or Singraphy or other platforms like that. It has to be an actual wet signature per Law Society rules, and most banks require those as well. So we've been just generally doing that for all of them to make sure that we're compliant with that. But then we get it done. We send the documents over to the other side. We wire everything. We have a desktop wiring platform that we use, so we send everything out. We have desktop payout programs to be able to pay out mortgages and pay clients. We've had a little bit of trouble with the real estate offices because we've been trying to pay out directly to the brokerages, but sometimes they haven't been getting through quite as well as we'd like. So we have been doing more checks mailed on those ones, but technology has its there are sometimes some flaws built into the system, unfortunately. I don't know why they don't want to let us play well.
Well, there's just so many different brokerages of so many different levels of technology and policies, right? I mean, we're seeing it on our side as well. Even like our brokerage is fully paperless and fully we do, electronic deposits and electronic transfers to commission trust accounts and whatnot. And we kind of expect that going at this point, right? So we tell our clients, oh, no problem, you can send the deposit electronically. And then we go, wait, sorry, we're dealing with brokerage XYZ. They don't take deposits electronically. You're going to have to send it to me and I'll go run it over as get a money order or something like that. And so, I'm sure that's compounded with all the different, obviously, your level from the real estate office to the transfer office to the bank and so on and so forth. But we're definitely kind of feeling that pain. I mean, obviously, and this wasn't always the case, but it's been several years now that we can do fully digital signatures, which has been awesome for us. But I know even the ability to witness things via video is pretty new for you guys, right? You couldn't do that like a couple of months ago. And I remember, I think you personally were pretty instrumental in trying to get that changed. I remember seeing you tweet out to the minister and like petitions and stuff like that to get that happen, which I think.
Sorry, the Zoom, it's always like, are you done or not done?
Yeah, no, for sure.
The real estate signing, I mean, yes, I was doing a lot of tweeting at the Attorney General, because a lot of banks in the early days of this were insisting that we meet physically with our clients, which was quite frankly dangerous. It was early days of this. Cases were going up every single day. We were being told by all of the health authorities to not be within 6 feet of people, and yet we were being told by some banks that we had to be in the same room in a period where it was still cold outside, and so we had to be physically in a closed space to be able to properly witness signatures. And a lot of us in the real estate law world were frankly offended by that there would be no consideration, no flexibility whatsoever. We weren't asking to do digital signatures. I mean, I would love that, but we weren't asking for that. We were asking for the opportunity to do, you have your copy of the document, I have my copy of the document, you sign it, I witness it, you send me your copy, I sign on the same one. That's all we were asking for. And some banks were completely okay with that, and some banks were being very inflexible. Eventually, they all came around, and now they all pretty much universally will allow us to do it on a video call. There are a couple that are starting to be more open to the idea of something like a digital signature, but most of them are not, and so we're just at the moment not going there. No, I was involved with a big push to get virtual will signings as well, because same thing, there's been a lot of anxiety around that, especially at the beginning of this. We had a flood of calls about getting wills and powers of attorney drafted in March and April, and wills that there was no workaround for that unless the actual law was changed, because the law in Ontario is you have to be physically in the presence of two witnesses over 18 and not named in the will. So you can't have your spouse and your kid who live with you witness the will, or it invalidates the gift.
Right.
So we did have an issue there. I was fortunately, I will not tell my means, but I was able to get the cell phone number for the Attorney General of Ontario, and had a really great conversation with them, because it was just, they were dealing with a whole lot of other things, and people being able to sign their wills was just quite understandably not top of mind. In the early days of this, they were far more worried about a lot of other things, with the courts shutting down, all the criminal law issues, everything like that. And so it was just not something that anyone had thought of. And so having it, putting that bug in his ear, he went and he struck a panel of expert estate lawyers across the province. And within a few weeks, they had put an emergency law in place to allow us to do virtual will signing. So now we can do that, which is great because I can now do fully virtual estate planning as well. I can see my clients. Anyone in Ontario can now see their clients over video call, do instructions, email out the drafts, and then we can do a virtual signing over some sort of video call. So that's been great as well. But yeah, we're all sort of rolling with it. We want to get the deals closed and we want to get the work done the same as everyone else. We don't want to prejudice our clients in any way. I had lots of clients who had deals, like you said, deals on the go, already agreed to things in early March or February, and it was supposed to close later in March or in April or in May, and all of a sudden this is all happening, and you can't say to the client, well, sorry, you can't close that now because of COVID. They still need to move. They still have obligations, still have contractual obligations, and it has to get done. And so we're just doing the best we can to still protect our clients in every way we can, but get the work done virtually. I would say the biggest pain point for us in real estate has been money transfer. I do not understand. No one has been able to help me understand why in 2020, when I send a wire, it can take up to 6 hours for it to show up in someone else's bank. I send an e-transfer. My brother and sister and I bought a Mother's Day gift for my mom last month, and I told them how much it was. And 5 minutes later, I had money from each of them in my bank account. I don't understand why when I hit wire, it takes so long to get to the other lawyer. That has been
transfers are obviously a better option in a lot of cases, but they have arbitrary limits on the amounts, right? And not even the amount per transfer, but the amount people can accept per day. Or like we tried to open that up really for all of our clients to just e-transfer in their deposits, right? And I think there's a limit. I think it was 5,000 per transfer. And we go, okay, well, some deposits are like 50,000. You have to send multiple transfers. But then we found out, well, even if you send multiple transfers, there's a limit of I think it's 10 or 15,000 per day. And we're a big brokerage, right? Who has 300 plus agents. We would hit that limit like in the morning every day, right? So it didn't make any sense.
I've got a client, they're buying a house for $500,000, not an unreasonable price to be paid. And that's a really good price for a detached house in Barrie right now, right? $500,000 and your deposit's $100,000. You can't send an e-transfer for that.
No.
And sometimes I don't have mortgage instructions until a week before closing. And so I don't know the actual amount they have to bring in until then. And so I can't give them 3 weeks to be able to send $3,000 a day. I need the money to be able to close. So then they have to get the money to me. So that's difficult. And then I have to get the money to the other lawyer. And, I send a wire. I've had times where I send a wire at 9:30 in the morning and the other lawyer doesn't get it until 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And if I've got, my client's got to sell in order to buy, and the person buying from my client has to sell in order to buy, and then they have to sell in order to buy. And, in olden days, pre-COVID, if you had a chain of 8 deals, that's going to be slow enough just going to the bank. But now bank lines are impossible. We just can't. You can't do that if they're even open, and the wires are taking so long. So that is definitely the biggest difficulty in getting the money to the other lawyer's office, because we can desktop wire no problem. It just takes sometimes they're 10 minutes and sometimes they're 8 hours, and no one at the bank. And everyone I've talked to has the exact same issue. Sometimes they're thousands out, and no bank can seem to explain why there's that discrepancy and why any of them take so long.
Yeah, but at least we're starting to see things getting better in that arena. Obviously, not that I want to call anything via a pandemic a benefit. Obviously, there's been hardships for a lot of people and worries and scares. But one thing we have seen is offices who weren't set up to work remotely now are. People who didn't have the technology in place now do. People who didn't accept money electronically now are. And I think that's going to continue even post this. People are going to be putting this systems in place in case there's more issues, right? So I think that's going to make things easier year round for different things. I know some of the measures that have been put in place are temporary, but I hope that we'll see that kind of stuff extend. Like I know with your video signing, was that a temporary measure, or are you just allowed to do that permanently now?
It is temporary. So for example, commissioning of affidavits, well, actually that's in flux right now. So the rules surrounding affidavits, there are a couple of documents on every deal, both sales and purchases, that have to be sworn statements. And the the law of commissioning an affidavit is you have to be in the presence of, but it doesn't say physically in the presence of. The Law Society of Ontario has always interpreted that as physically in the presence and has always been very firm that they do not consider it a valid affidavit if you're not physically in the presence of. But then all this started happening, and they sent out a directive to every lawyer in Ontario very early on, maybe it might even have been week 1, definitely by week 2, where they said that they were going, for the duration of the emergency, they would consider in the presence of to be virtually in the presence of as well. So that allowed lawyers anyway who commission affidavits to be able to do them by a video call. And then this is actually something that's been on the Attorney General's radar for quite some time. He actually introduced a bill, it was last year, I think, or maybe even the year before, to change the law around commissioning oaths to allow them to be done virtually. Because he's a former real estate lawyer himself, so he gets it, and that it's a problem when you've got a client, you probably have experienced this before. You've got 2 sellers, and one of them does not live locally, and someone's got it, or you've got someone buying a property and they need a parent to go on title, and their parent lives somewhere else. And it just causes a lot of difficulty to get in to sign the documents with the lawyer, because now they have to go find a lawyer close to them, have to pay extra for that lawyer because the lawyer locally is not permitted to do those documents virtually. The ones that don't need a lawyer to witness, they could just go and get their spouse to witness that, no problem, but there's always an affidavit in there. And so they're trying to bring in rules to allow the virtual commissioning of oaths. Then COVID happened and the Law Society relaxed all the rules. And then the Attorney General is actually in the process. I think it's gone to second reading at this point. It's in consultations now. A bunch of groups have submitted thoughts on it, including the Law Society of Ontario. And it looks like there's going to be permanently permission for all commissioners of oaths. So not just lawyers, but also our staff who are commissioners, and a lot of municipal officers are commissioners, to be able to sign affidavits remotely. So that'll make it, in those types of situations, it'll make it a lot easier to be able to have that parent who's going on for 1% to be able to get the kid their financing and not have to pay an extra, $200, $300, $500 to another lawyer just to do that one document.
So basically, like the temporary measures we put in place are helping people that are not, for issues that are not even COVID related. They're making some things easier. And then it's kind of like a forced experiment where, like, obviously when they're doing these readings, like the minister's able to go in there and say, you know what, we've done this now for 3 months and there wasn't any issues with it. So now, you might not let us try it, but we did try it, and now we should keep doing it, right? So that might make some of these easier.
And there's always going to be concerns about fraud. That's just always going to be present in real estate. It always has to be in your mind, my mind, everyone who's doing this. It has to be in the back of our mind somewhere that is this legitimate? Is the person I'm signing documents with legitimate? But we've always, however long we've been doing this, we've been focused on that, and we've been working to make sure that we're not participating in a fraud. And yes, there's potential for it to be more complicated when it's a video call rather than in person, because you can see what's behind me right now, but you don't know if someone over here is standing there holding a weapon to my head telling me what to say, right? And so there is always that potential, however unlikely, but it's there. But it's just an extra layer of trying to check up on things. And but we can do that. We can just keep more mindful of extra things. We're all capable of adding a couple extra things to our minds, and it does make it significantly easier and just a more pleasant experience for a lot of our clients who, 90% of the time, there's not even a hint of fraud. And all it does is make life easier. I was actually talking to clients who closed a sale a few weeks ago, and 6 months ago, I did a refinance for their daughter. And their daughter spends 6 months of the year in Ontario and 6 months of the year, because of her work, she's down in North Carolina. And at the time, we were trying to do the refi before she had to leave for North Carolina. And the instructions they literally came in the day before she was leaving, and we just couldn't get it done in time. So we had to arrange for her to go in to a lawyer down in North Carolina and to get all the documents properly witnessed and sworn and back to us. And I was saying to her parents who did the deal last month that if she had been doing this during COVID, I could have done all her documents even when she was in North Carolina, I could have done everything virtually and signed up everything, commissioned all the documents, and she could have just emailed them to me, and she wouldn't have had to hire an extra lawyer. And so, you were talking about the silver linings of like the good stuff that's come out of COVID. There are some practices that I absolutely hope, some of them I'm fairly confident they will, and some of them that I really hope they will keep these for after when this is done, so that we can continue to help our clients make their lives easier over this. I mean, coming in to see a lawyer, even if it's a friendly real estate lawyer, can still be scary, right? You're going in to see a lawyer. And a lot of people can be intimidated by the idea of going in to see a lawyer, which is why I don't wear a suit. Why I try to present myself the way I do, because it can be an intimidating experience, but you want to try not to make it any more intimidating than it has to be.
For sure, for sure. You touched a little bit there on, extra layers of protection and delays. And so one of the things I wanted to ask you about personally, because we're seeing it on this side of the real estate deals and I know lawyers always love it when real estate agents are writing their own clauses because, we're such legal experts, some more than others. But we're seeing coming through in deals from various different brokerages, these kind of clauses that are really worried about, if things should be delayed due to COVID, if the land registry office should close, if the bank should close, if things should happen, transactions are automatically delayed 14 days and they're automatically going to happen within 5 days, the registry office opening back up, which, some of this stuff to me is crazy. First of all, I don't see the land registry office closing. I don't see the banks, maybe branches closing, but not the banks in terms of the underwriting departments and that kind of stuff. And even if that was the case, obviously this will be a countrywide thing where there's going to be provisions put in place for where this contract is really not going to hold up. But if they did, you're not going to be able to get something closed within 5 days of the land registry office reopening. You're going to have to restart this whole process because things are going to be out of date. They're going to be backlogged. To me, agreeing to this kind of stuff in writing is not our place as agents. Obviously, the lawyers are going to handle these deals that get stalled if that were to happen. And again, I don't think it's going to happen. But what are your thoughts on that kind of stuff?
The COVID clauses, we work with them if they're there. I don't put them in if they're not. Like you said, the director of titles for Ontario, Jeff Lamb, has been very, very clear from day one of this that he is not shutting down the registration system unless there is no physical way to keep it open. He is not shutting it down. I don't think any bank is planning to completely shut down. And almost all of us in real estate law are capable of sending money from our desktop. I have a program on my computer. I have my password. I have a two-factor key. I can wire any amount of money at any time to any other lawyer in Ontario to be able to close a deal. And I can wire money out for paying out a mortgage and paying out a client. I can do all of that stuff right from my desktop. I don't need to go to a branch. So if all the branches shut down, I can still run my business. As long as TerraView and the head office of the banks are open, we can still go, and that is just not going to happen. They're just not going to close down. So if the COVID clauses are there, it doesn't really hurt anything because it's not going to shut down. The only one that would be an issue is the one that says that if you're sick, it can be delayed for 14 days. I don't know how I feel about that because who says what can happen when, and could it not still close and you can just disinfect before you move in?
Right. And again, because we can do everything via video or electronically, if you're sick and you're quarantining your home, in 90% of cases, we can probably still get things done, right? Not that we don't want anyone to be sick, obviously, but really, you're probably still going to close and then just move in when you're better in terms of, delaying the whole transaction, which can be a domino, right? There could be, like you said, 8 deals that can't close because one person is sick. And while we feel for that person, it's not really prudent or wise to hold up everybody else's transactions, right? And there could be huge financial ramifications. So that kind of stuff scares me for sure. But I have not seen even one of my deals, never mind not closed, but even be delayed through this whole thing. There's been some, concerns here and there, but in the end, everything did close on time. I'm not sure on your end, but everything we've dealt with has been.
We've had some delays, and it's been because of the wiring system, because the money just didn't happen on time. It mostly has been times where I have said it before, I will say it again, everyone should bridge. Bridge loans are just sent from heaven. They are wonderful. They make our lives so much easier. And if everyone did a bridge loan,
the clients' lives and our lives too. Like I say this as well. Like we're on the same page about a lot of stuff, and every time a client says they want to, sell and buy on the same day, and forget the financing. I mean, that's an important part, but the fact that you're not both in the driveway with moving trucks at the same time, the fact that you're not getting there with your movers at noon and they don't move out till 6, or vice versa, or you don't know exactly what time it's going to close. Sometimes it's 8 in the morning, sometimes it's 6 at night, just before the time the funds arrive. We see that's our number one closing day issue, is getting there and the other people are still there, or getting there and the other people just didn't get it done, something happened, whatever, and now your stuff's in a truck overnight because you can't get into the next day, or who knows. Please give yourselves at least 1, if not 2 days between.
Let's do a 1-day bridge. I mean, the cost of just having your moving truck sitting around because you are out of your old place but you don't have the keys to your new place yet, because at minimum, even pre-COVID, you were looking at probably a minimum of an hour between when we sold your old place and we had the keys to your new place. And so you could have an hour of your truck just sitting there doing nothing. Now you could be looking at 4 to 6 hours from the time we sell your old place to the time we get the money to the new place and we get it closed. The cost of your truck sitting there is less than the interest on a bridge loan. Yeah, and that's just on a cost basis, but there's also, as you said, the stress of, you're not sure. And we can have, and I've had, unfortunately, more than once recently where we've gotten the sale closed, but there've been so many deals that had to close before that sale could close, that the sale didn't close until 4:30 in the afternoon. And then I immediately go and wire the money out because all the branches are closed. So I can't, even if I wanted to, I couldn't go. My bank is open because they're opening until 6 these days, but all of the other banks, none of them are open past 4 mostly, if not 3 or 2. And so we physically can't go to another bank and close it that way. So we have to wire. And good luck getting a wire out in half an hour or even an hour and a half if they can see the money after hours. And so that the sale could be closed and the purchase isn't closed. And so now you've got to find a place for your stuff and a place for you overnight. And it can be incredibly stressful. We do our very best when we've got same day ones. And I get that sometimes want to do it, especially when they're buying cash because they have enough money coming out of their sale. They don't need a mortgage. If you're not getting a mortgage, it can be hard to get a bridge loan. I totally get that. They don't want that, but it really can save a significant amount of stress to do even just a 1-day bridge. I mean, I'm a big fan of the 2 or 3 week bridge because then you thoroughly clean the house, you can paint while it's empty. If you have any repairs, sometimes there are things that get dinged on the way out and you want to fix the walls. Anything you want to do, you can do in that time while it's empty, and then you can pick your moving date and move, and that the house is empty and you can go and have everything.
The bridges really aren't that expensive, right? I mean, I know there's a lot of factors there, but it's usually just a couple $100 for, even up to a week. Like, it's not crazy. And like you said, from the stress point, from the financial point, and as you mentioned, I mean, sometimes it's, it's later in the day and there's a crossover, but sometimes it can be overnight, and not just COVID related, but in general, for whatever reason, things don't, close on time, funds don't come on time. And we've been seeing that all the time, right? And
Friday of a long weekend and the sale closes at 4:45 and the purchase can't get done. And now it's Tuesday before you get your house.
And that was actually going to be my next point. Is it's another reason we say don't close on a Friday, right? Because if that's going to happen, I mean, close on a Wednesday or Thursday, at least we'll probably get it done on Friday instead of Monday or Tuesday after the weekend. So, I mean, these are things that I've been in the business 10 years. I know you've been in the business all the time. These are things that we just know to tell people ahead of time, but not every agent does, and not every person has the same forethought in what you're going to do. And we see these issues come up, and people are just
sometimes where I've said to the client, I'm really sorry. I wish that but there's nothing we can do, and now it's going to. And the realtor their realtor had told my client, but the other client, the other party refused to. My client wanted to close on a Wednesday or Thursday, but the other party said no, it has to be a Friday. And they said, well, we want the house. Okay, we'll take a Friday, and then things happen. It's really unfortunate. I mean, I never like to have delays, and my clerk has joked in the past that when it gets to sort of getting close to 5 and we either don't have our mortgage money or we don't have the sale closed, I start walking around. She jokes, I walk around like an expectant father. There's nothing I can do, but I'm still a little anxious, and I wanted to get things done, but there's literally nothing we can do at that point. Sometimes it's the mortgage just hasn't come in, and we've been told by the bank that they have everything. They just haven't sent the money yet. Sometimes it's we're waiting on a sale and there is literally nothing we can do because the buyer has to sell first, and multiple people who didn't bridge. And it's really unfortunate. And probably my least favorite call to make is to a client saying, it's 4:30, your sale hasn't closed yet. We need to start talking about extending what we're going to offer to the seller of the house you're buying to be able to extend to the next business day. And you just have to do it, and you have to take and you hope that the other lawyer is going to be considerate. And the worst case scenario is that you're paying interest costs, but you're still going to pay interest costs. And you could have, what if there's a chain in front of you? It's 1 week ago where the mortgage money just did not come in. I was talking to the mortgage agent after the fact, and she said they had a Canada-wide issue. There were 700 mortgages that didn't get funded that day. And thankfully the bank reimbursed my client for the costs, but they had the cost for their seller. And then that person was supposed to buy the same day. So that seller had interest costs overnight. And then they were supposed to close that day as well. So we had 3 layers of interest. It ended up being about $600 extra that my clients were responsible for. But it's not their fault, but it's more their fault than it is anyone else's fault. And so there's literally nothing you can do, but at the same time, there's costs that have to get paid. So.
And I know you're there till the very last minute. I mean, I've gotten those calls from you at 4:30 saying there's nothing we can do. It's not going to close on time, but you're finally at 5:15, all of a sudden there's an email from Cesia. We got it done. Whereas I know other lawyers are like, well, it's 4:30. Here's my coat, right? And they're just going home, and you're like, well, we'll figure it out on Monday. So
I have the kids hanging off my legs saying, "Mommy, get off the phone. Well, Mommy's got to do work right now."
So obviously, like I said, we appreciate it. We know that how important it is for people to get into their homes, and I know that you feel the same way. So it's good to see that kind of across the board, because not everybody works that hard.
I don't do family law. I get emotionally involved, and at least I'm getting emotionally involved in something happy. But no, I can't just let it go and say, okay, I got to go home. Deal's done. See you later. Unless there is something I have to get to, in which case I'm calling my law partner or one of the other lawyers in my office to say, here's the situation, I have to go, I need you to babysit this until the last possible moment when they can do anything. So to make sure it gets covered.
For sure. And that's why we love you. But that's it for me. I mean, this has actually probably run pretty long already. I hope people are going to watch it to the end. But do you have anything else you want to add? First of all, tell us, where to find you, where to contact you.
So my firm is Wall-Armstrong and Green. We are probably just about the only real estate law firm in Barrie that is not on the main strip of town. We are on Yonge Street, just north of Little Avenue. We have lots of free parking.
Right beside the Dairy Queen. I see it all the time when I'm in there for the drive-through. Not that anyway. Yeah.
It's dangerous. So I can see it. I'm looking out my window right now and I can see it. It's dangerous. But yeah, we're right in between Dairy Queen and Starbucks. It's a really excellent location.
Perfect. Yeah, you just get one of each, right?
So no, we've been here. My law partner's been practicing since '77. I joined the firm in 2008, and we do exclusively happy law, so real estate, estates, and corporate. We have 4 lawyers in the firm, so there's always someone here to help. And we answer the phone when you call. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, guys, I will put up her contact information as well, the phone number for the firm anyway. You probably don't want a bunch of direct emails and IMs, but anyway, we'll make sure that you can get in touch with Cesia, or just call me and I'll put you in touch with her as well if you're doing a deal with us, of course. And even if you're not doing a deal with me, you can definitely still use Cesia because she's the best. So hopefully she tells you to call me. But anyway, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it, and I will talk to you soon.
Sounds great. Have a good day.
Bye.